Oh, nice. That was fast. Okay, so I'm going to first show in JS Rhoxy, which is my primitive rholang implementation, how we did the only do lookups at that topmost level, or like as I was calling it, at the door. And then if there's some time left, then we can look into what Chris was asking about, which is like how to do an audit channel in a purse-based token system. So that's not what I was expecting. So this is in JavaScript, and rhovm.js is the main function. How's my text size?
Good for me.
Okay.
Good for me.
Okay, cool. So so this rhovm, it's going to be like an object, and then the rhovm has some capabilities. Let me just find them. Okay, so rhovm, when you create a new rhovm, you get a couple methods. Some of them are trivial, like isEmpty just tells you whether there's anything at all in the tuple space. This stuff is all just ways to access data in the tuple space. Same with all sends and all joins. But these are the two interesting ones: deploy and execute comp. So the two ways you can interact with the rhovm is you can either deploy some new code to it, which is like, parring in some new terms into what's already there, or you can execute a single com event. So this is trying to stay like super close to the rhovm semantics and allow things for like stepping through your code, for example, like one com at a time. So those are the only two ways you can interact with the rhovm. And since what we're talking about right now is how you can do the only do lookups at the door, we're going to take a look at deploy, because that's where code first comes in. And deploy is right here. Okay. So the way deploy works is you're supposed to pass it some AST, basically some parsed rholang program, and it's going to get deployed into the tuple space of this rhovm that we're calling it on. And so you can see it's basically just a wrapper around a different function, par_in, which is an internal function. And it sets up an empty environment in random state. Those are implementation details that we don't care about right now. But this is the important part. It's just a wrapper around this main function for parring new code into the tuple space. So here's how it goes. There's all these tags you can have in the AST, and this is similar to how you guys have implemented it. So, there's like a nil, there's a send, there's a receive, there's a par, there's new, there's like, all of the integers and that kind of stuff. And so I've split new into two different keywords. One of them is still new, which is like when I do, new secret channel in whatever, I still use new there. But the one where it's like new standard out in from the URI row IO standard out, I'm using lookup there. Now, it doesn't have to be a syntax change. We could still make it have the exact same term, and then we wouldn't have to change the syntax. But that's not super important here either. But here's the important part. We test if the top level thing is a lookup. And if it's a lookup, then we go ahead and execute it. So like this is basically my lookup logic. It grabs something out of the registry, whatever they were trying to look up, and then it puts it into the environment that's going to be, that the rest of this code is going to be executed in. And then we set the deploy term to whatever was inside the lookup. So that means like we basically executed this outermost layer, which was a lookup. Now we've got this environment set up, and we're gonna call the main thing par_in. And so we've done it. So deploy term is what was inside the lookup. The environment is what we constructed by doing the lookup, and seed is an implementation detail for unforgeable names. So now here's our main par_in function. This is the way. Anytime you have a com event that happens and a continuation has to get parred in, or anytime someone deploys a par and you have to par in multiple terms that are parred together in that initial deploy, all of that happens here. This is the main one. It's where all the other execution happens. So like if this is a ground term, if it's a send, if it's a receive, I've called them joins, all of that execution happens here. The only special one that happens in deploy is lookup. And then the magic is whenever we have to make one of these calls recursively, like we would for par, for example. So like if I'm trying to deploy a par, then we're going to have to loop through all the terms that were parred together and par them each in individually. So all the recursion just goes straight back to par in. It never takes you back up to deploy, or like never sends you back to the locker room where you can pull some unforgeable names out of your locker.
Got it.
Yeah, so that's how the implementation worked there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mentioned this to Greg yesterday.
You mentioned it to Greg?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And he was saying, yeah, I see how that could be useful.
Yeah, so that was my intuition at the beginning of this meeting, is that's the audience for this discussion that we have to have very soon.
The Greg is the audience?
Well, for any language changes, he's got to obviously be involved. So
yeah. Well, let me also frame this as just something that would be cool if one were inventing a programming language, in addition to something that might be cool specifically for our chain.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. But what I want to do is see this idea expanded on and thought about in the context of our chain, which that's what I presume that's the main purpose of this meeting, right, Joshy?
Cool.
And so for that, we
I
definitely
think it would be super beneficial. Yeah.
Yeah, for that we definitely need to get Greg's input.
Yeah.
And
right.
So, and, we have to look at it. Is it a major change to have a private registry?
Yeah.
There's no more work in doing this than there is for making the rev files available, really.
And there is work.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just to be before we started recording, and you joined, I think, Jim, we kind of set this up as or at least framed the timing aspect of the discussion, such that it was clear, like, one of our restrictions for the way we did the RevWallet or RevVault was no language changes, no syntax changes before mainnet, for sure. And so that kind of constrained a little bit the outcome of what we ended up with.
This it doesn't really involve a syntax change. It just involves having a private locker, a private registry as well as.
Yeah, well, potentially, right? The way this current prototype that Joshy has is definitely a syntax change.
Not for
right?
Not for the way that he handles the lookup.
I guess it's not technically a syntax change, is it?
Well, I think, Joshy, you said that. You're using the word here, lookup, but I think if I heard correctly, you said at the outset it could still be something that already exists.
Yeah. So I can actually show you where that happens too. In the parser, so we're parsing all these different kinds of processes, and here's where I've done the new that is not looking anything up. It's just binding a new unforgeable name. And then here's, oh yeah. So in fact, I forgot that I did that. Let me find. Oh, I guess that's it. So maybe, oh, wow. I didn't even remember that I did this, but I actually do support the co-op syntax for that as well. So like it would parse as either the lookup keyword or the new keyword, and then it would, give you the thing that you've bound. So basically the way I've done it here is that the co-op syntax would still run, but it also supports the new lookup keyword. Yeah. But anyway, the point was this is the only the only syntactic part of it. So now it wouldn't even support the new lookup keyword.
But the major semantic difference is that their lookups to the actual registry would only be available at the topmost.
That's right. Yeah, the semantics are a lot different in that regard.
Right.
Like all of any code that has internal lookups, those would not work anymore.
Yes, right. And that in itself is a pretty major change.
Yeah.
But again, what I'm, I just want to figure out the best way to move these ideas forward, right?
Yeah.
Because this, as I said, this is very much, let's say, from a design pattern perspective, very similar to what Artur and Ovidiu conceptually were talking about with their locker / post office box. It's gone by a couple different names.
Yeah.
But
yeah, you wouldn't have to disallow lookups to the global registry, would you? I mean,
oh yeah, that's a good point.
I can see benefits in
I guess I was thinking in terms of the two solutions, the solving the ambient authority and solving the access control list problems as coming together. But I guess it need not be the case. Like you could have a private registry and still allow the ambient lookups, or disallow the ambient lookups, but not have the private registry. But that's okay. I'm not interested in jamming them into a place where they don't fit for sure. Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, if I think through why the private registry is so interesting, is because it would be nice. So what's unique about, I guess, the blockchain is that the way things, the way new code gets added is through a deploy mechanism that's signed cryptographically, right? And so, and Josh, if I say anything that you is different than what you're thinking, please correct me. But from my perspective, just conceptually, and the reason I feel like crypto at the door is what the name you chose, is that deploy step. That's where I want to visually and sort of as the owner of the resources that are going to get touched, identify what's going to go into that deploy, so that it's clear that there's nothing beyond what I've put at the top level that is available of my stuff.
Right, exactly. That's
probably
exactly the solution I'm trying to, or the problem I'm trying to solve.
Yeah. And so, and we, that's one of the, the ambient authority problem we talked about, and we have a fix for on the Rev Vault that's, I don't know if kludge is the right word, but it's definitely specific to that. Well, it's not specific to the Rev Vault, but it's specific to just identifying the signer of the deploy. It doesn't introduce this idea that the deployer might have a bunch of other private stuff in a registry somewhere.
Yeah.
So one question I do.
That's an important part. Identifying the deployer of the deploy. That's the part that I'm saying, I'm super happy you guys are doing that. I think can be generalized nicely with this way.
So, Joshy, have you thought through so if you have these private registries, how do you set those up, or how do you change them, or how do you how does the maintenance of the private registry work? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I don't think that so I have an idea that I think is best, and I have ideas that I think other people might think are best for very good reasons. And so at some point, I think there's a little bit of a matter of taste in there somewhere. But just to get the flavor of it, I was thinking it might look something like this. So at my top level, if I intend to register something, then I can just do lookup row registry private. So I don't need to say who I am or anything. The only one of these that I'm ever going to be able to look up is my own. And then, maybe we can also look up something like this. And then maybe we can also look up something like this. And I'm showing this last one just to show oh yeah, you don't type lookup again. Just to show the syntax here, but maybe this is my purse. And then it'll be row private, and then I don't know, purse one or whatever. And so the idea is when I want to look up something in my private registry, I just give it some URI like this, and where this purse1 part, that was chosen when I first registered it in there. So then let's say we want to, let's say we want to make a new purse. Like I'm going to create a second purse here. So we'll do like a new purse channel, and then on the existing purse, then we'll send, I think it worked like this. My purse, sprout. So I think this is how, like, I call up my purse and I say, I want to make a new empty purse of the same currency. And then I give it this, this channel. So like, I'm going to call up my purse, tell it to sprout a new one. I'm going to get it back on purse channel. So then when I get it back for new purse from purse channel, then so this now is, here is where I finally, why I looked this thing up, because now I can do, I didn't give it a name. What a noob.
I almost said that, but I was like,
yeah. Well, it's tricky when I'm saying I'm introducing new syntax. You don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's what I meant to do. All right. So now I can finally register like new purse, and then I guess just so I use this one, standard out, success. So this is like my thought about how it might work. You know, like I'm only allowed to register stuff in my own registry. So like that's the one that I get here when I do this. And then the other part is like, I think this is super nice, instead of having to look up the lookup channel and then send a request on the lookup channel to finally get my purse back out of the registry.
That would be a nice improvement, but if we wanted to stick with the same syntax,
oh, that's true. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, that's a
we would
syntax
have to
change.
do that.
Yeah, that's right. So one thing that I haven't quite pieced together, and this is actually why I was so excited to hear that there was something called the PO box proposal, is because the part that I haven't quite figured out the nicest way to do is, how do I, like, so let's say this new purse here is a payment to Chris. Like, so Chris, how do I give this to you now? You know, like I kind of want to do something similar to this, but I want to like send it to your inbox so that it's there for you whenever, you know, you get around to getting it.
Yeah, frankly, you need a way to look up something about me.
Yeah. Right.
And
it depends. Yeah. So one thing I wondered is like, well, what am I assuming that I already know? Like, what do I actually know my recipient as? Is it a key? Like, do I know them as a public key or an address, or like,
so
do I know them as some URI?
Yeah, and this is it's a really good question. And we felt it was really important to follow the semantics that a lot of people are familiar with in blockchain world, which is I can gen a public key pair and turn the public key into the address of that particular blockchain and give you that, and you can send to that address to get me my coin.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the requirements for RevVault, right? That's why you can do a lookup and pass in a rev address, and if it doesn't exist on chain, because I can do that step off chain, it will still create a placeholder that I can come back later if I can prove that I possess the private key and receive the token sent to it. And that's the part of this. I don't know how to do it cleanly other than introduce some magic. And the magic in the RevVault today is that you can send to an address that doesn't exist.
Yeah, I think
I
think that's exactly the right solution. That's exactly what you want, and like exactly what I want to do here, right? So my thought is that you've done the right magic, but we just want to be able to generalize it so that it's like not just for Rev, so that I can send you like this capability to vote in an election, or this, you know, crypto kitty that you can breed or do whatever with.
Right. Okay. That's really insightful.
So here's what it might look like if we were just typing up the code. So imagine like now I need to import, or I need to look up one more thing here, and it's going to be something like you know, I'm just going to call it your name at, you know, I have no idea. I feel like I'm abusing their name here because it might not even mean the same thing. But well, maybe I'll use Dan's old name. And then like whatever, you know, whatever your address is, it probably looks something like that. So then like, you know, so now I can delegate the thing I created by just sending it here. New purse. In this, you know, it doesn't have to be a new purse. It can be a, you know, new vote or whatever.
And so, okay, so let me, hold on. Let me think. So in that scenario, how does, okay, so you send, so you did a lookup of my hitch post and you sent it your purse.
Yeah, I sent whatever thing, like, you know, this is some object capability.
Yeah, no.
For you.
But how do, oh man, how do I ask this question? How do you know that the recipient can handle that purse or that boat or whatever? What does hitch post look like that it's capable of processing a purse and processing a vote and processing whatever new thing you give it to it?
Yeah, so my thought is that the hitching post itself doesn't know any of that. It's not in any way smart. It's just this, like, you know, Dropbox where anyone can throw object capabilities. And if you happen to know what they do and actually want them, then you do something with them. And if not, then they're just like airdrops tokens that people don't even know they have. Like, you know, you see it on your account sometimes and you're like, oh, great, I don't know what that thing is. So it looks like this.
On that are that you need to know in the inbox, because I had that problem with the voting, which I haven't solved, that you need the address of the name of the contract of the capability you're receiving and the sender. Has to be guaranteed. What's the
For your inbox application?
Which contract does this capability represent, and who sent it to me?
Oh yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah, I see what you're saying, Jim. You're saying like later when you come along to use this thing, if you want to have a chance of using it, you have to know like who sent it and what am I supposed to do with it.
Right. You want to be guaranteed that it's not going to do something bad. And this is just something I know Dan's been working with. So I figured we would talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the part that for me is very, very hazy. Like I don't totally grok this part. Like, and what I mean by that is, well, I guess let me ask a question and maybe it will help identify what I don't understand.
Yeah.
How is it possible with this system for you to send something to Chris that ultimately Chris doesn't know what to do and it ends up just disappearing? In other words, could you do the equivalent of accidentally burn coin by sending it to somebody that doesn't know how to handle it?
Oh, I see what you're saying. So my vision for this is that like if I send you some coins and you don't know how to handle it, then they just sit there forever and ever until you either decide like, I don't know what this thing is and I don't like it in my headspace, I'm going to discard it. Or, you know, if later you're like, hey man, I saw you sent me something, like, what is that? And then, you know, I'd say like, here's what methods it has or whatever. Here's how you call it. Here's the, you know, front end to glue onto it. That'll make the right transactions for it.
Or you know, I sent this, you know, 2 weeks ago and they haven't accepted it, so I take it back.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I hadn't really. Well, yeah, I would almost say like in that sense, what you should send is a revocable forwarder, and then after 2 weeks,
right?
The revocable.
I'm more interested in the or what the question I'm trying to ask is what does the code look like on the receiving side of this?
Yeah,
you know,
right,
because
exactly.
it's just hard for me to wrap my head around this concept without.
So here's how I'm imagining it would look. So we've got to look up some stuff here, and so we'll start by looking up like, I guess let's just start by like copying the same stuff, and then we'll modify it as we need it. So there, that looks better. So like I sent you some vote, right? So the first thing you do is get the vote off the inbox. And so you'll do like for my ballot from row. Oh yeah. Oh, so we need to do like this, I guess. Oh yeah. I guess it would look something like this. For my inbox from row registry inbox or something like that. But this is basically the thing that is like wired up to the other end of what I've been.
Yeah. That part I get. I'm looking like, what's the magic that gives me the type information? I guess that's what I'm looking for.
Oh yeah, sorry, I started to focus at the wrong spot. This is
that's all right.
how I'm thinking of it.
No. But that's helpful. I think.
Yeah.
Because it's filling in all the details.
And so this is, you know, where it happens. It has to match some pattern, something.
Okay.
Identifying the thing I want.
Yeah. Okay. I got it.
Now the question is like,
what's in that paren?
Expressibility do you want here? If we want to keep it pretty simple, then we can just say like, okay, it has to be of the form where, or in fact, maybe we could even do it like this. Like it has to be of the form where it has some specific unforgeable name. And this unforgeable name is the one that makes me know for sure that like I got the thing from the right contract, comma, my ballot. So like it's got to be a two-tuple, and the first element has to be this exact thing that I know I'm looking for. Or, you know, if ever the time is right, then we could say like it has to be my ballot and it has to be like some behavioral type here, where, you know, the behavioral type is like it lets me vote and it doesn't vote for the wrong person and it doesn't give my vote to anybody else.
Right. Yeah.
Express stuff.
See, that's the part of this that I think we need to like put some meat on the bone to get that a little bit more understood by more people.
Yeah.
Because that's the, I think that's the, well, for me anyway, I might be focusing on the wrong thing, but for me, that was the part of this that I didn't understand what it would look like or how it would work to complete this picture.
Yeah. See, so I'm already really happy we did the idea sync too, because like talking about the PO box, or like, again, I don't know if this is what their PO box is, but the name is just so good. I feel like they have to be similar. Like that brought a lot of it together for me too. But the reality on the ground though is like I spent a while building this prototype, but I don't have time to keep working on it until it's like really good enough to show anymore. So that's why I'm now excited to just socialize the idea.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. This is really cool, Joshy. I mean, idea-wise, I really love it.
Thanks. I'm glad I got to talk to you guys too and talk about the idea.
What I want to do, and I'm gonna lean on Kelly a little bit for this one, is trying to figure out the best way to not have this die as we are focused on mainnet. Because I mean, well, not. I just want to make sure that we circle back to getting, you know, these ideas that we're all sort of circling around, fleshed out and hopefully put back into our chain.
Yeah.
In some form, whatever it be.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of things here that I consider just programming patterns. Okay.
Yes.
Whether you put the unforgeable name, a public key, and a signature, or whatever, is something that we can experiment with, and certainly with the with the voting contracts.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, you could argue that the current registry is kind of an experiment. I mean, no, I don't mean that facetiously. It may not be the best design pattern for our chain and coordinating on channels, which is really what it is, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But it's what we have.
Hey, I think one low hanging fruit though for the current pattern is just this kind of thing, where instead of having to look up like, you know, RL from row registry lookup and then send a request on that to get the thing you want, if you could just, you know, put the URI here and get the thing you want instead of doing all those lookups, that might help a lot.
That's not a function. That doesn't add functionality, though.
Oh no, it does not add functionality. That's true. Yeah.
So after mainnet.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Chris, going back to your question in terms of not losing track, the thing I'm not clear on is, where do you imagine this type of change coming in, as a Mercury patch or as a Venus?
Well, so and this is kind of why I asked Joshy to spend a little time on that pattern match side of it, because again, well, I'll phrase this in the form of a question. Does that step get easier when we have Venus with better type support? I'm not the person to answer this, because we're getting into language territory where it's just outside of my domain, and I'm just trying to ask the questions to figure out.
I think maybe a good way to think of that is that, like, as you get, you know, fancier types and patterns, like, well, yeah, basically you just get more expressive in the kinds of things that you can match against, you know? But I don't know, I think with having an unforgeable name there, you're pretty good to go. The only thing I'm thinking about is I remember for a while we were talking about this in the context of Rev, where it's like, it would be nice if you didn't have to have a back and forth off-chain interaction in order to send Rev or whatever. Like, it should just be, give me the address and I send it, not like give me the address and I send it and I give you back some other thing to look for on your end. But I don't think we're super far off from this, or I think we might be at a place where this could be pretty sufficiently expressive.
Okay.
Basically what I'm saying is, like, the idea is, like, encapsulating an unforgeable name into a contract is super powerful. But whenever I deploy the contract, I generate a new unforgeable name inside, and then from here on, that just serves as a fingerprint for the correct contract. Like, anything that has that unforgeable ID they can be used.
Yeah. And that, by the way, is how the multi-sig Rev wallet actually works, right? Is essentially having the unforgeable name that represents the Rev vault is what gives you the ability to spend that Rev vault, so you can share it between multiple people.
Oh, that's interesting. So yeah, so multi-sig is something that I spent a lot of time thinking about in the context of this personal registry, because, you know, multi like the sig part is the bummer about it, because sigs means specifically like cryptography, but like rights amplification, where we come together and together we can do something like spend this joint checking account or you know, multi-sig or whatever, that composes supernaturally when you stick with the object capability discipline. So you just have this forwarder where when each of the two people, or, you know, each of the three or k of the n people send in their approval, then the thing goes. Right. So I was hoping that could be moved into row VM territory instead of pulled out into magic territory.
Oh, that part is, I don't think that is, well, I don't know what you mean by the row VM versus magic. Maybe I should ask.
Using magic.
I didn't view it as magic today.
I don't know how the multi-sig works. What I meant was, when I said row VM, I meant like anything that can be expressed in rholang and
Yes.
understood in
Yeah.
terms of comm fence.
Yeah,
as
all
opposed
of the
to having to do
multi-sig
something
stuff
simple in
is
Scala.
expressed in rholang.
Oh,
There's no
that's
magic
awesome.
there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. The only magic is the, again, all the way back to that top level auth magic of making sure that the signer of the deploy is the granting their part of the grant.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. So how does it work? So like if you
I-
have
Hold
one
on.
multi-sig-
I just want to make sure we're clear on time. Chris, you and I have a very hard stop in 5 minutes.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. No problem. Thank you. Cool.
So just to quickly wrap that up, Joshy, it's the multi-sig rev vault. The idea is that you gen a vault, and there's logic that basically says you have to have 3 or n of the m people okay a spend on it,
Mhm.
and they do that by deploying code that authorizes their portion of the spend. And then that code, that the contract that executes that code is holding the unforgeable name that actually spends a rev vault. And once the 3 come together, then it executes the spend.
Oh, interesting. So how do yeah, I just need to dig more into that, I guess. Is there like a spec or some example code I could look at?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of
That's cool. Just like whenever it happens, if you think of it.
yeah,
send
I'll
me a
ping you.
dig into
I'll
it.
ping it. It's
Cool.
I think, is it this sprint or next sprint?
That we're doing what? I'm sorry.
The rev vault work.
Multi-sig rev vault.
Oh, well, next sprint.
Okay.
After
Yeah.
cost accounting, which seems to be getting bigger and bigger.
Fair enough. Okay. Cool.
Oh, I
Joshy,
see
this-
the POBAX proposal. Nice. Okay. Yeah. Hey guys, thanks a lot for coming and listening to that. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Oh
maybe
yeah,
in
this
2
is
weeks we can
really cool.
Yeah.
run the wallet, multi-sig.
So
Sorry,
I guess
Jim,
I didn't hear that either.
I
Can
didn't
you
hear
repeat?
what you said, Jim.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said maybe in 2 or 3 weeks we can revisit that multi-sig.
Yeah.
That's the spirit.
So Joshy, would you be open to having like a round 2 of this discussion, where like maybe we open it up to first of all have either Ovidiu or Artur go over the PO box and so that you could see that part of it, and then we can maybe use it more just as a brainstorming session to synthesize sort of all of these ideas into one that we think is the one we want to move forward with.
Yeah, I think that's cool. I think it would be super helpful if we could do it like during this hour or something that's kind of. I just struggle to do too much arching.
Yeah, no, we could do that. We could do it during this hour.
Yeah. This is it always Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific? Or
yeah,
this hour,
right.
whatever
Yeah, it's
hour
always
this is
this hour.
in your current time zone.
Right after your community,
Oh yeah.
Okay. And we could possibly do it before the end of this month.
And it doesn't have to be an hour. I'd be happy to talk for 20 minutes or something. You know?
So Kelly, to answer your question then on time-wise, then just to circle back, as Joshy said, the answer I heard from Josh is it doesn't need. I mean, we can mature it as it goes. It doesn't need to be like a wait for Venus thing.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of makes the answer a little bit harder for me, frankly, because I don't know. Like we could have this version 2 of this conversation in a month or whatever, but I don't know what when the results of that. We got to talk about how we would make this change.
Yeah, so let's not commit to a timeline. Like you guys know the idea. It sounds like you have a bunch of similar / maybe even the same ideas inside. And so like whenever or if ever it seems like we should talk about it more, then we will.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Well, good.
Cool.
Hey, it was fun catching up with you guys again too.
Likewise, Joshy. Good to hear from you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Talk again soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Take care. Thank you so much, Joshy.
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, I have a hard stop also.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
We'll see you later. I'll pass back the host to you.
Oh, okay. That's okay. I'm going to roll too.
Okay.
Nice to see you, Steve, Gary.
Yeah,
See
thanks,
you.
Joshy. See you guys.
Bye. Bye-bye.